Greetings, friend, and welcome to Riptovia. Dave Makes Noises here at your service. Today's story was written by our sweet friend Scorpius187 over at r/MrRipper, and it is entitled, I Am the Last. 150 years, and I am the last. That's how long I have lived, give or take. Quite long for a human, I know. You would think that one as intelligent and learned as I, Delkesh Valkyrian Dragonsbane, would know my exact age, but keeping track of time gets a bit difficult when you've been resurrected and cloned as many times as I have. In the beginning, there were 6 of us. Darveen, the male dragonborn fighter, my best friend and the leader of our group. Lunel, the female elf sorcerer cleric. Voss, the male dragonborn paladin. Rimador, the male elf ranger, Apollyon, the male tiefling paladin, and myself. We became known as the Guardians of Faerun. Our stories are known throughout the land, recorded in the annals of history and retold in countless volumes of both factual and fictional depictions. I was a 29-year-old female at my first death, slain by a cruel beast of a man, Leviathan, the chosen of the primordial Megara. Lunel was the only one to see the deed as it happened, watching in horror as I called to her for help. Eons and eternities later, or so it seemed in my torment, but in actuality only a few months, Lunel acquired the necessary components to bring me back to this world. She brought me back as she knew me best, as my 28-year-old male self. For this I am thankful, as living as a female was solely due to the cruel machinations of an archdemon posing as a god who tricked me into following him for a time. Once again, the Guardians of Faerun took up arms and drove evils from the world. The guild grew both in influence and in numbers until my friends and I became advisors rather than active members, allowing others to handle the day-to-day operations of the guild we had founded to protect the world. I myself settled down and married Lunel's half-sister, Shava. For some years, we pretended to be a happy couple, but in the end, her desire to live as a noblewoman among her elven people drove her into the arms of another. We did have 2 wonderful daughters together, Jessica and Nicolessa. Oh, dearest Jessica, the world took you from me far too soon. I cannot hold Shava fully responsible for ruining our union. After all, I also had my own indiscretions. It was unknown to me for many years that I had a 3rd daughter. In fact, I only discovered when Jennifer joined the Guardians. After this, I returned to the life of a scholar, studying both history and advanced magics as the High Archmage of Faerun. I advanced the schools of magic beyond what many thought was possible, but having studied the histories of men like Karsus, I saw it wise to keep this knowledge hidden even from myself. With the help of Azuth, I locked away this knowledge in an artifact only usable by me in my time of absolute need. My friends and I grew older and enjoyed life as though nothing could harm us. And for a time, it was so. Oh, there were certainly disputes and quarrels, such as people have who come from different walks of life, but the days of constant fighting to save the world seemed over. Our children were starting to make their own lives, forge their own paths, and we watched them grow. Lunel and Darveen's daughters, Liana and Andariel, were the leaders of a new young group of guardians. Hexen, the son of Voss and Mishan, grew to be a capable wizard who took to my teachings quite well. Gallian Lionheart, the son of the paladin Xander Lionheart, whom the group brought with them to fight Megara after my demise, followed in his father's footsteps as a paladin himself. What Gallian lacked in intelligence, he made up for with sheer willpower and an unending desire to protect his friends. Aside from those, others who joined this group of adventurers were Aranil the vampire fighter and Aoth the human monk, both of whom were new members of the guild. Before they could set off into the world of their own volition, evil once again raised its head. We adults sacrificed ourselves in the ensuing battle to get the children to safety, in hopes that they could find allies and work to fight back the evils that were once again plaguing the world, as well as to find an artifact that Lunel told them to find. Liana led them admirably and found the artifact, which was actually the catalyst for restoring our souls to our cloned bodies. Once again, my friends and I were alive. Our cloned bodies awakened and freed from their hiding places where Lunel had stored them many years prior. Thus, my body was 28 years old for the third time. The others were cloned much later in their lives, so their new bodies were closer to their actual age than mine. Sadly, Rimador's soul never completed the journey to his cloned form. Enemies had encamped within the place where our cloned bodies had been stored, knowing it was a location we had previously been associated with. We managed to escape and retreat to the safe haven the children had been using, where we took up roles as mentors, offering advice and counsel and assisting in gathering allies. Once this new evil was dealt with, my friends and I were once again able to live in peace. I myself left the guild to pursue my other calling, that of royalty, having discovered through my journeys that I was of royal blood from the line of Gareth Dragonsbane of Damara. I decided to return home and claim the throne of Damara as the rightful heir. Upon establishing my credentials, no one saw fit to oppose the grandson of Gareth Dragonsbane, who was also the former High Archmage of the land and a world-renowned hero. Thus, my reign began. Over the course of my rule, I heard tales of what had become of my friends. Voss left the Guardians shortly after me to serve as an advisor to Michonne, who was now the ruler of the Dragonborn people. He lived in Jared Thymar until his death around 20 years later. Apollyon had left the Guardians before the Second War and had started his own following of Paladins of Ilmater. He died around 10 years afterwards. Xander became a chosen of Torm and lives in the Plain of Trueheart to this day. Lunel and Darveen stayed with the guild, serving as its leaders. 30 years after my rule began, I came down with a severe illness, which forced me to step down as king. I appointed my daughter Nicolessa as ruler in my stead, and by proclamation, legitimized Jennifer's position as Princess of Damara. After stepping down, my condition improved dramatically. The physicians believed the stress of ruling a nation was wearing me down, and suggested I leave the throne to Nicolessa permanently. The people of Damara did not take to Nicolessa's rule at first. She announced many changes which I knew would push Damara forward if the people accepted them, but people are resistant to change. I had been a good ruler for my people, and they were afraid of the changes a new and untested ruler would bring. How quickly they had forgotten that I was once an unproven ruler myself. At first, the changes Nicolessa instituted created chaos and panic, and the people threatened revolt. I feared that the news of my recovery might cause the people to turn against Nicolessa completely and try to force me to retake the throne as king, knowing that retaking the throne would only serve to worsen my health again, and that Nicolessa's leadership would be best for Damara going forward. Nicolessa and I, together with the council, decided it best for me to fake my own death. Being dead has its benefits, not the least of which is freedom. A king is mostly known in name only, so with a fake name, it was easy to travel outside the lands of Damara unnoticed. I briefly considered returning to the Guardians, but that part of my life was long past. So for many years, I wandered and explored, simply enjoying the world around me, things I had missed out on seeing as an adventurer. It was a nice way to pass the time. One thing that my journeys did bring, however, was clarity of thought, in that the years of wandering as a nameless, faceless individual gave me time to reflect on what I missed the most in life: the study of magics. Having been busy with the duties of ruling a nation, my skills as a wizard had regressed considerably. I was also a much older man now, and found that attempting to memorize even simple spells was becoming difficult. Once I finally decided to return to my former passion in earnest, it took me a week just to be able to cast Firebolt again. With more time, I found myself able to cast much more easily, and soon after was progressing quite well. No sooner had I begun this journey of rediscovery than I met up with a new group of adventurers, young ones like I had once been, eager to see the world and make names for themselves. I took a liking to these youngsters. They reminded me of my friends from long ago. I started to serve as a bit of a mentor to them. It was good to have a purpose again, and we were starting to do some good in the world. Shortly after I met them, Lunel managed to track me down. She was old and frail, no longer the powerful sorcerer cleric she once was, but what she lost in physical ability, she made up for in mental strength and heavy plate armor. She and I whipped the youngsters into shape and fashioned them into a capable fighting force. But more than that, I began to form friendships with these younger individuals. In time, I realized that I had found more than just eager adventurers to mentor. I had found a new family. Lunel's arrival was not entirely joyful, as she was also the bearer of sad tidings. My best friend, Darveen, whom I had not seen in quite some time, had passed the previous year. That night was the first night I drank alcohol in many years, in remembrance of the times Darveen and I had spent drinking together. Lunel and I spent that night mourning the losses of our companions. We were the only two left from our band of 6. Alas, the sands of time are a cruel master. Lunel said when she came to join us that she was not long for this world, and if at all possible, she would prefer to go out on her terms rather than simply passing in her slumber. She soon got her wish, as during a battle with a very powerful assassin, she sacrificed herself to save all of us. I held her hand as her eyes closed for the final time and felt her soul pass from this plane to the next. I've carried on with the group for a while since Lunel's death, but it has been hard. I've been blessed to find a second family, but there is a hole in my being that cannot be replaced or repaired. I miss my old friends. One day soon I shall go to them, but not yet. There's still work to be done. Nicolessa has sent word that there is unrest in Damara. The people there have apparently heard that I may still be alive, and they are accusing her of having had me exiled. I feel that it is time to return to my home and settle whatever business I have left before I too join my friends in the great beyond. I have done all I can to prepare my new friends for this moment. I hope it is enough. 150 years, and I am the last. Thank you so much for watching to the very end. Big thank you to Scorpius187 for sharing your story with us. We're so glad to have you as part of our community, Scorps. We love you, bro. If you've got a long story you'd like read here on Riptovia, please feel free to share it with us on our official subreddit, r/MrRipper. If you're looking for a group to play Dungeons & Dragons with, feel free to check out MrRipper's Group Finder Discord server. I've been Dave Makes Noises. You can find me on TikTok, Twitch, and Instagram under that name. Thanks again for watching. We hope you like the new format. Feel free to let us know how we're doing in the comments below, and we'll be happy to hear from you. Thank you, and be well.